I met her through, guess what, another introduction that Pat did. So if you want to get introduced, here's what I would suggest: spam Pat. Send her 50 emails. No, just joking. But she's the true networker. She's amazing. So before she leaves, let's give an applause for Pat. Now, again, I'm not going to pretend I'm going to memorize everything. I'm going to read it. Reina is amazing. I had the privilege to attend a strategic planning day that she led, and how come we're not going to bring her here? So let's bring the little bit about Reina. She's jokes.
There are jokes.
There are jokes. Reina business philosophy is a three-pronged approach combining heart-centric marketing with ground process and sustainable systems. She says that 10 years in strategy and marketing is long enough to see the ebb and flow of those who do it fast and those who do it right. I love that. I love that. Despite what you see on Instagram,
the tortoise usually wins.
pardon my Spanglish. By the way, one thing that I left out, when I joined the Air Force in 1996, I spoke zero English. Zero English. For a whole year, I was like, yes, sir, no, sir. That was it.
That was good.
Good first year.
Reina has worked with dozens of brands on their strategic plan, trained Fortune 1000 companies on sales enable, and designed winning SEO strategy for 8-figure e-commerce brands. She has won several awards for her work with large companies like BNI International, Honeywell, and Newpig. But she learned the hard way that satisfaction with your work doesn't come from the size of your paycheck or trophy. Reina is passionate. I can attest about that. The first time I met her, we clicked right away. We think similarly when it comes to marketing. She's an awesome person. Great ethics. That's one of the things that I look for in partners. When I bring people, when I endorse anybody, I want to make sure that their ethics are in line. So, Reina is passionately committed to bring the system and strategy that give big brands and unfair advantages to local businesses. For that reason, she created a local Rockstar Live, where she helps local business owners use their small stage to have a big impact. So let's welcome Reina. A big applause.
Thank you, Angel, so much for doing this. So I am always in awe of people who do event planning, because I hate that stuff so much. I'm not a project manager. So I want to say really quickly that this is going to be very different from some of the other things you've heard this morning, and here's why. You don't have a marketing problem. You don't have a social media problem. You have a habits problem. 10 years in digital marketing, working with hundreds of different brands, and I can tell you, if you don't address the habits problem, you will never be successful in social media. Because social media is like exercise. If you do it once a month, it is very, very painful. But if you do it every day for a few minutes, eventually you'll be able to run a mile, or maybe 27 miles. I've done that 3 times, and side note, I think that every small business owner should run a marathon.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Because if you have the mental capacity to overcome the obstacle that is 26.2 miles, you can overcome anything. Because I don't care how good a shape you're in, somewhere around mile 17, the shape doesn't matter anymore, and you're just in pain. And whether or not you keep going is entirely your mind. And that is marketing. That is digital. One tiny step after one tiny step after one tiny step until you have an empire or a lifestyle, which is my preferred. So I like to think of local businesses like rock stars. And I want to show you why. I want to talk to you a little bit about what I believe after 10 years of being a super data nerd. I'm an SEO specialist, by the way. I think a lot of people who know me as a social media person around here because I've talked about that a lot, but I'm actually an SEO specialist. That's where I've built my career. That's where I've spent the most time, helping people get found in the Google. Okay. And what I know from that experience is that if you have the right habits and put the right context around them, you will find your audience. What I think of, that's weird. So, local rock stars, to me, are businesses doing business in a finite geographic area. Small stage. And I want you to have a massive impact. I've worked with international brands, multi-billion-dollar companies, and you know what they do when they have a problem? They just throw some more money at it, right? Throw some more money at it. Right. It's way more fun, ladies and gentlemen, to do this part. It's way more fun to work with the local businesses. So, as a local rock star, I want you to think about your finite geographic area because most of you are not doing business all over the country, right? Who is? Anybody here doing business all over the country? A few people, okay. You will have a slightly different strategy than some of the things that we talk about here, but I do want you to know this. The easiest way to build a brand in today's 2019 digital landscape is in one location at a time until you achieve scale. It is very difficult to go international all at once. It's not that difficult to do Hernando really well. So if you want to be international, I suggest starting at home and then expanding out from there. It's like the pebble dropping in. It's like your rock stars that start in their garage at the local bar, right? But here's the thing. How many of you have 1 to 5 people working in your business? It's either just you or less than 5 employees. Most of you, right? The danger that you hit when you get social media training, you take a class online, you go to a workshop, whatever, is you're mostly getting trained by people like me and people like Angel, who our entire job is marketing, right? And so we're going to tell you all these things that you need to do, but it's a full-time job because that's what we do all day, every day, right? But how many of you here are only a marketing person? Okay, 2 out of the whole room, right? So that's your full-time job. So you can probably manage to post 15 times a day, right? Even sometimes when you're a marketing person, that's hard. Most of us are doing our job, and marketing is actually a whole other job that we're also trying to do too, right? So what if I could show you how to do it in 30 minutes a day? Would it feel more manageable? Awesome. So that is my promise to you, that I'm going to give you a system that you can manage your digital, particularly your local SEO, and I'll tell you why that's so important to your local brand in a minute. But first we got to lay a foundation. So you hang with me to lay a foundation first? All right, so what is a rock star? Angel's math book, apparently. A rock star is a person who inspires fanatical admiration and or action. So one of the things I've heard you guys struggling with this morning is, but I can help anyone. But I can help everyone. You don't get to be a rock star trying to serve everyone. I want you to think of one of my favorite rock stars. I am a huge, huge Beatles fan. We will look at the Beatles a little bit in a little while. Any other Beatles fans in here? Okay, does anybody know what the Beatles did before they ever came to America? For over a year. Come on, no Beatles historians here? They played these little clubs in Germany every single night, 7 nights a week, for over a year with the same set before they ever recorded an album. So by the time the Beatles became the Beatles, with the exception of Ringo Starr, he came in a little later, They were already so well practiced and established this following that they had a foundation in place that allowed them to take over the world. There is no such thing as an overnight success story. Every single overnight success story is built on 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, whatever it is, of work and dedication, and it appears like an overnight success because of that work. I know some of you here were at the Women's Summit a couple of weeks ago, and at the Women's Summit we had Meredith Masoni come in and speak. She has 2 million-ish Facebook fans. Awesome woman, okay? And the thing that I was like desperate for everyone to hear that she said over and over again was, I spent 3 years doing this for nothing, to talking to basically no one before it became a thing. Rock stars practice and they choose a specific market to serve. And I want you to write this one down because this is really important. Service is infinitely renewable joy. When you are figuring out where to go, which platform to use, who to focus on, I want you to figure out who, when you serve them, it gives you infinitely renewable joy. I have worked with some of the biggest brands in the world. And you know what? It sucks to serve them for me. Because you know what you do? You put on a fancy suit and high heels, and you sit in a boardroom with a bunch of old white dudes and try to explain to them how Facebook works. They're all old, trust me, Jeff, they're way older than you. And it's not fun for me because my passion, I come from a family of carpenters and nurses and contractors, and I grew up on a farm in rural Central Florida. Guys, it's so rural that 98% of Floridians live within 2 miles of a Publix. My mother is 45 minutes from Publix and about 30 minutes from Walmart. When we went to the grocery store and wanted to buy ice cream, we had to take a cooler because it would melt on the way home. Very, very rural, working people. And that is my heart. So my infinitely renewable joy is serving people who are doing that kind of work, who their heart is going back into their community, into the people that are around them, the people that they serve. Who that is for you is going to be as varied as the individual that you are. But finding who gives you that infinitely renewable joy is the first step. Because as a data nerd, I can tell you that you can do all the target market data research in the world that you want, and you can find the perfect audience. If you don't like serving them, you will not be successful in social media because it will come across. So I know our last speaker was in the real estate world, and I've worked a lot with realtors, and realtors can focus on almost anyone. And the poison of that world is that they can focus on almost anyone, because all of the most successful realtors focus on a specific market that is interesting to them for whatever reason. One of the most successful ones that I ever worked with did very specific golf homes in like 8 communities. And she sold hundreds of houses a year because she happened to have been a semi-pro golfer. Imagine that. So, we're here for Social Media Day, but I'm going to talk to you a lot about Google My Business today, which is really about local SEO. And here's why. 60% of local B2C searches on a mobile device either call or visit the business within 24 hours. You want that? When you pick up your phone and you do a search for an electrician near me, a hair salon near me, or whatever, what you're getting delivered is usually a Google or a Bing My Business listing, depending on which browser you're using. Usually Google My Business. And that listing, if you are doing business in a finite geographic area, meaning your clients are within a 25 to 50 mile radius of you, that listing is more important than your website, than your Facebook page, than your anything else. It has the highest ROI and has since 2014, but we don't focus on it. Yeah, please take pictures, hashtag, tag, do whatever you want. Yeah. Yeah. SEO stands for search engine optimization. It's how you get found in the Google. So when you go looking for something, this is how you get found. Because this is what CEOs used to say to me all the time. We need to do better in the Google. 46% of all Google searches are seeking local information. We live in a contextual search world. Context is king, you heard it said before. We used to say content is king, guys, but that died like 10 years ago at this point. Context is king. Your Google search and your Google search and your Google search will all look different based on your habits, based on what you search for, based on the settings in your phone, based on what you've bookmarked. And the number one context, guys, is location. This is why Google My Business is so huge for you. And here's a cool tip. It's the easiest of all the social media because you only have to post once a week. I'll show you why in a minute. 97% of buyers say they look up a business online before buying, even when it's a referral. My business is almost entirely referral based at this point. I almost never get random phone calls at this point, and it's been designed that way purposely because finally, in about year 8, I got to the point where I only work with people I like. It may sound bad, but if I talk to someone and I don't like them, I don't work with them. So almost all my business is based on referral. You know what people do after they get a referral to me? They go Google me, or they Facebook stalk me, or they pull up my website, right? So even if your business is based on referral, you need this baseline platform. 300% more ROI from local search versus social media, TV, or print. Local search is the #1 way to have an unfair advantage over your competition. Okay? So I'm not going to bore you with a ton. I can get it to work. Oh, hey, you got it. I'm not going to bore you with a ton of statistics, but what I'm going to tell you now is search is now social. 5-6 years ago, it used to be that people would hire me for SEO, and I would come in and I would talk to them about only keywords and backlinks, essentially. That was where I would spend 99% of my time. But you guys know what the #1 search engine is, right? Where people search the most often?
Google.
The Google. What's the second largest search engine? YouTube. Who said it?
Oh.
Yeah. YouTube. Also owned by the Google, by the way. But YouTube is a hybrid of a search platform and a social media platform, right? It's the second largest search engine. Facebook is desperately trying to become a search engine. They just really suck at it. No, I'm serious. They really, really want their search bar to work well. I've been involved in like all kinds of projects trying to get that to happen. They just really suck at it. So we'll see if they get there. Google My Business is Google's latest attempt, and I think better than any of the 3 attempts they made before, to be more social. So I don't want you to think of search and social as separate things anymore. They are hybrids. They work together. Okay? But here's the thing. Back to that exercise, that practice. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced. I want you to not do more. I want you to do less. In fact, I'm going to show you something in a minute I call the Trinity principle. I fundamentally believe that most local businesses should not have more than 3 digital platforms. I don't want you on every platform. I don't want you putting garbage in 50 places. I want you to put good stuff one place. And then when you get really good at that, add a second. And then when you get really good at that, add a third. And if you don't have all the business you ever needed from those three, go hire a marketing manager, because you will, and then you can add another one. Cool? Thank you. Okay, so what we're gonna cover, lightning fast, because Angel took my 90 minutes and took it down to 60, right? 3 things: rating fans, compelling story, and sharing your message. These are the 3 keys that you need. Rating fans, who is it? Who is passionate about you? There are a few of you in here that have known me for a long time. Going on 10 years, right? I used to show up to do these kinds of things in suits and heels. And literally, it was like standing in my closet, putting on my armor. Now, probably about half of you in here, like, if you saw me this morning, you're like, what the hell is she wearing?
I didn't love that.
Right? But this is, and then there's a smaller group. They're like, oh, I love that. Those are my people. Those are the people that give me infinitely renewable joy to service them. Those are the people that are going to connect with me and what I have to say. And in a room of 40 people, 50 people, there's probably 4 or 5 of those people, guys. And they are the only ones that matter to my business. Y'all matter to me. There goes my Central Florida. Y'all matter to me. But to my business, those people who see the chucks, see all the bracelets and stuff, and are like, yeah, I get that. I'm there. Those are my people, right? So you gotta figure out who those raving fans are, and then you need to tell them a compelling story. All good marketing is good stories. But here's the mistake that we are almost all making. We have set our business at the center of the story as the hero. Any writers in the room? Writers. You guys know the hero's journey? How many heroes do you get on the hero's journey? 1. If your business is the hero, what is your customer? The hero is the customer. We're the guide. I'm not the rock star. I'm Gandalf. But then you gotta share. This is where the Trinity principle comes in, and fast management, because this is habits. You can have the best story in the world. You can have people who love your story. If you don't have the habit of communicating with them at regular intervals, you will fail. This is where we fall apart. We don't have the consistency. And in social media world, especially with the younger crowd, a day is like an eternity. If you only post to your specific audience once a month, you're never going to get the momentum that you need. Now, I will tell you, spoiler alert, I only post on my Facebook page, not my personal profile. Side note on that, it is a violation of Facebook's terms of use to function a personal profile as a business profile, and I've seen huge accounts get shut down for it. So please be careful if you use that as a strategy. But if I only post on my page once a week, I have a Facebook group that is people who have really opted in to be a part of my community that I post in every day. That group is the only thing that really matters to me. These are my people. These are the people that I take care of for free, right? Some of them are clients, some of them are not. But I want you to think about your social media as really bringing it down, bringing it smaller. I want you to be on a small stage so you can have a huge impact. Because often one of the first things I do when I talk to a business that's like, I have 10,000 Facebook fans and I have, 100,000 hits on my website every month, but I just don't seem to be getting any business. Because it's not about the numbers. If you bought those fans, because that's what people used to do back in the day, if they're not engaged with you, having more will actually hurt you, not help you. And the same thing is true in search. We have this thing called bounce, where if they land on your website and just pop back out because they didn't get what they need, it's terrible for getting found in the Google. All right, so Yeah, thank you. I want to illustrate how this works for you. Fan signals are super, super important. So we're going to see how good you are. Play a little game, okay? See if this is back on. Do you guys know who, I think I have one for every generation. So do you guys know who Little Monsters are?
They're Lady
Anybody?
Gaga's fans.
Oh, we got that one quick, okay. Anyone in here not know who Lady Gaga is? Anyone in here think Lady Gaga sucks? Will you admit it? Okay, somebody will admit it back there, right? Do you know why Lady Gaga is so fanatically popular with her fans?
She interacts with them.
So, as a little monster myself, I would partially argue that she has a phenomenal voice and is very creative. But the truth of the matter is she's a genius at marketing to a very small subset of the population who are her people. When Lady Gaga was first coming up, a lot of the things that she stands for that we consider mainstream at this point were very not mainstream. Let's put it that way. And she was actually instrumental in bringing some of those things into the mainstream. You speak to your fans. And we didn't even hardly have to read it. Lady Gaga are Little Monsters, right? They self-identify, and that's the thing, she didn't name them that. They self-identify as Little Monsters. All right, what about Swifties? That one's easier, right? This one I don't really understand. I gotta be honest, guys, I'm not of this generation. I consider myself an elder millennial. I was born in 1983, so I'm like, I barely count. But I don't really get this one. But these kids that call themselves Swifties started listening to Taylor Swift when they were like 10 years old. But how old are they now? 24, 25, and what do they have now? Taylor Swift has switched genres. She has been pretty much a train wreck in the media for most of her adult life. Not when she was younger, but most since she switched into pop, right? And her Swifties still follow her and still are raving mad fans. Why?
She's true to them.
Yes. She knows exactly who they are and she is only speaking to them. Last one. This one's an easy one, right? This is for my older group. Guys, when did Jerry Garcia die? Late 90s? Yeah? Over 20 years ago? This is still, do you know how many people still follow Grateful Dead and Grateful Dead culture? Jerry Garcia has been dead for 20 years. You perhaps have, oh, and here's the other cool thing about the Grateful Dead. Do they like go give their concerts and play hits? Anybody know anything about the Dead? They don't play their hits. When you go to a Grateful Dead concert, they jam. And they can play anything at any given night. And they never, ever played their hits. So what is it about them that makes people so fanatical?
Sounds like they just enjoy the music and they were just about enjoying the music and sharing.
Drugs.
It's this.
Yep, exactly.
So guys, if you know me, a few of you do, I used to be a trainer for BNI, and I used to work with BNI International. And in fact, I helped them design, if any of you have been a BNI member, they have a system called BNI Connects. And when they first came into social media and designed the BNI Connect system, I was on the team that helped BNI International do that. It was very painful. I was not qualified. I don't recommend doing that. But you know, sometimes you know people and you get unfair advantages. But in BNI, we used to train people all the time this know, like, and trust idea. If you've been to almost any sales training, networking training, you've probably seen this, right? Know, like, trust. Is this new to anyone? Okay, good. Thank you for being honest, by the way. Know, like, trust is the idea that before someone will give you business or do business with you, they first need to know who you are, right? You don't know what you don't know. If you don't know who I am, you're definitely not doing business with me, right? Then you need to like them. We will sometimes do business with people we don't like if we're absolutely forced to, like Spectrum information. I operate a home-based business and it's operated entirely on the internet, so. But unless we're forced to, we will typically not do business with people we do not like, and we will never refer to people that we do not like. Okay? Trust is they need to trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, that you're going to deliver what you say you're going to deliver to them. Now, the higher risk your thing is, the more trust will be needed. For example, those of you in insurance, real estate, we had an attorney here. You guys are going to need a lot of trust to get that gig, right? Because it's very high risk. Versus back here with the coolest company ever, the DIY projects, like what's your average price point?
Probably around $65 per workshop.
Okay, so not as much trust here. It's like a night out, right? So if you go and it's not great, I'm sure it's awesome. But if you go and it's not great, you haven't really lost much, right? Versus if you buy a house and your realtor messes up on the house, this could be painful. In fact, I used to be in banking, guys, I've been through some of those. But here's what these sales and training companies miss all the time. They stop at trust, and they miss the end. In 2019 marketing world, this did not used to be the case, by the way. If you are from the marketing school of prior to the internet, like pre-1999-ish, this may not have applied to you as much. But these last two, believe and core values, are where most businesses have quit, and that's where they lose. So once you get know, like, and trust, they need to believe. They need to believe that you are for them. They need to believe that you will benefit them. To give you an idea of this, I do strategic planning for companies. It's my favorite thing to do. It's my flagship thing. It's 2-day immersions. They are super intense. And I had a customer last week, because we do a lot of them in June, July, November, December. And I had a customer last week say, I'd like to talk to some of the previous people that have done this before we make the commitment. It's a big expense. It's a lot of time for their leadership team. So I refer her to one of my previous strategic planning groups, and they talk to her, and she comes back and she says, they told me it was the most painful thing that they had ever done before. And they do it every year and have for 3 years, and believe that they wouldn't have moved forward in their business without it. I want you to think about the power of that. This customer told another potential customer that it was the most painful experience of their life. And she still signed a contract with me, right? Buying a home, selling a home can be super, super painful, right? Insurance is hella painful. Loans, things like that. There's often a lot of pain in the work that moves someone forward. You need to have belief. Oh, you went to sleep again, Angel. The final one, core values. I'm so passionate about this for you guys as local businesses. Millennials are here, okay? I'm not gonna say that word again, I promise. But we're here. I don't wanna hear any more of the like, oh, that generation and they're destroying everything and blah, 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 blah. I am 35 years old. I lead a company. I have been an executive in an agency. Millennials are here. We are leaders and we have buying power, and we are only going to get more powerful. We are the coming generation, and we spend our money based on our values. This is unique to these upcoming generations. And if you see millennials in the room here, you see them shaking their heads because our Gen Xers and our baby boomers do not understand this. They come from what a friend of mine likes to call the IBM School of Management, where it's not business, it's not personal, it's business. This is not how millennials think. My business is very, very personal. And my personal opinion is if you tell me it's not personal, it's just business, it's because you did something wrong. You can do all these other things. They can know you, like you, trust you, and believe that your service is going to benefit them. If your core values are not aligned, they will go somewhere where they are. This is critical for you to understand as a local business if you want to have raving fans. I will not get political with you, but I will give you an example of this. I, unlike some of the other advice you've gotten today, am very upfront about my belief system in my social media. I have a degree in Iranian politics. I wanted to be a diplomat. I care a lot about politics, and there are certain issues that I would stake my business on. There are a couple of issues that I would stake my life on. And I will not be silent about them because they are as important to me as somebody else's faith is to them. And in this particular area, they're not necessarily the most popular viewpoint. And I have been cost clients and potential clients that were worth a lot of money because of that belief system. And you know what? I do not care. And guys, I spent a lot of time as a single mom. I'm not like independently wealthy. Whatever your core beliefs are, you need to wear those loud and proud. I do not believe in keeping those in the closet. Whatever those beliefs that are so core to you that they make up who you are never going to succeed if you try to hide them because people can smell it on you. Yes, it means somebody who's going to dislike you. Somebody might even hate you. But as my grandmother would say, if nobody hates you, nobody loves you either. All right. Now, I felt like you guys I was super excited that I decided to leave this in here because in the interest of time, I almost took it out. But you guys were struggling with this morning, right? Of how much of my personal do I share or not share? How much do I, which direction do I go? How much do I share that's just business stuff versus like resources? And I think you got to ask a backup question first. There are two types of rock stars. There are country stars, and there are rock stars. Now, I am a huge Johnny Cash fan. Do we have any other Johnny Cash fans in the room? All right. Tell me about a Johnny Cash song. What's a Johnny Cash song like?
Stories of his life. He lived it usually.
Yeah, it's stories, mostly of his life, occasionally some big, interesting ones, but it's a narrative. This is also the reason why I love Bob Dylan, by the way, even though I think his voice is weird. Stories are country, and they're usually personal. Now, I feel like this is getting diluted again by this like country pop stuff that's going on right now where it's, I don't consider that country music. But if you go back and you listen to the greats, Loretta Lynn, Johnny Cash, you're going to get a story. You're going to get a narrative, almost always. And it's very personal. And this is why those of us from the American South are so passionate about this music, because it is the story of our lives. It's personal. But there is another type. The Beatles, right? The quintessential rock star. What was the Beatles' first hit in America, guys?
I want to hold your hand.
She loves you,
Oh,
yeah. That song literally has like 3 lines.
Yeah.
Right? The quintessential rock star is about a hook. They're big, arena style music, and they have a hook that gets stuck in your head that you can't get rid of. When you're thinking about your local business, you need to think about, are you personal? Is your business you, or are you a brand? So for instance, USA Benefits Group, that is a pretty easy thing right off the bat. USA Benefits Group is a brand. They need to follow Rockstar strategies. I am a country song, man. My business is me. So how do you answer this question? A couple of things, or three things. First, do you want your business to live beyond you? Meaning, is there an employee or a child or something or a sale or something like that that is going to mean your business lives beyond you? If there is, then you need to follow a Rockstar strategy. Because the business needs to be bigger than you, otherwise it's not transferable. I have a friend that works for Marie Forleo. Anybody know who Marie Forleo is? She's probably the biggest of the internet marketing trainers. She has a multi-million dollar company that's ran entirely on her brand. It's all Marie Forleo all the time. If Marie Forleo was killed in a plane crash tomorrow, that brand would cease to exist. So if you were killed in a plane crash tomorrow, would your brand go away, or would you want it to live beyond you? Second, do you want to sell your company if you're an owner, or does your owner want to be able to sell it? That means it needs to be bigger than you. Otherwise, you're selling your name. And if you want to know how that goes, Google Bobby Brown. Third, are you in an industry that is so heavily regulated that you have to have a lot of disclosure around it? So I worked a lot, I used to be in banking, so I worked a lot with financial services like investments and health insurance and things like that. And there's so much disclosure and regulation around them, they can never get into the country star line. Like, it doesn't work because they have to have so much disclosure that they lose the really heart tug piece of it. And so they have to find other ways around it. So you answer those three questions, and that'll tell you which way you need to go. And if you're on the country star route, please talk about your family. Now, I have a personal rule. I don't post pictures of my kids anymore because I consider it a violation of their consent. They're not old enough to make that decision for themselves, and like our attorney told us earlier, it lives out there forever, and when they're adults, they may not want that out there on the internet. But I post stuff about my family, I post stuff about my fiance, I post stuff about my politics, all that, because my business is me. So that's how I encourage you to make that decision. And the reason this is important is because you're going to have 3 platforms, right? And you're going to need to decide for each of those platforms in a mini microcosm which platform, okay? I believe that most local businesses need a website, one traditional platform, which is like networking or print or something like that, and 1 or 2 social media platforms. That's it. And you need to get really good at all 3 of those, and then you will have probably all the business you ever needed. So I promised you 30 minutes a day, right? That's how this works. So my formula that has worked really well with my local Rockstar. So I run a program called Local Rockstar Live, where we spend a lot of time together learning these systems so that you can manage your own marketing, your own social media, and the reason and your own SEO. And the reason is, I think most small businesses should be managing it for themselves, because the benchmark baseline for hiring an agency is you need to have at least $2,500 a month plus ad spend if you want an agency to entirely manage it for you. And most small companies don't have that. So this system is for anyone who doesn't have that budget. So 50% of your time spent on conversion. What that means is, who cares if you have a bunch of people coming to your posts, liking your posts, coming into your, seeing your Google My Business, whatever, if it never turns into a sale. So most local businesses spend a lot of time on creating content that brings people like into their community, but then they just hang out there. Even if they're successful at building the community, they haven't created those conversion points. So Google My Business, for instance, makes this really easy. How many of you post an offer for your business on Google My Business every week? You're probably looking at me like, offers? I can post an offer.
Yes.
You should be posting an offer on Google My Business every week, whether it's a discount, whether it's something as a gift. By the way, use gift, not free, then it's less regulated. Something as a gift, something like that. Google My Business posts last for 7 days, unless it's an event, and then they last until the event.
Yeah.
So,
What's Google My Business?
okay. Google My Business is when you pick up your phone and you Google like electrician. Those first listings that come up that have a map and a phone number and like a little cell phone, like a phone icon, that is Google My Business. And it needs to be claimed by business owner on the backside. It used to be if you didn't have a physical location, you couldn't have one, and people did all kinds of things to cheat that are really bad, but that's not true anymore. Now you can do a service area.
So that it's just Google search?
No, it is a special division of Google.
It's almost like a back office.
Yeah, it's like a back office. So I know Angel's telling me I'm almost out of my time, so I'll talk to you a little bit about it afterwards too, Lisa. So 50% on conversion, because if you don't convert the traffic you get, you are wasting your time. And conversion requires testing, and it requires thinking about what the last action is before someone does business with you. I want you to spend most of your time there. I would rather you post on Instagram 3 times a week and spend an hour and a half on conversion strategies than post 6 days a week. Then you want to spend 30% of your time on local search. This is Google My Business and other local listing sites. For my realtors in here, you need to be a Google Local Guide. You guys know what that is? Google Local Guides are people who give a lot of reviews and help to other Google users, and they get a fancy badge on their Google that, yeah, and it gives them a higher trust factor. Realtors who don't use this, it's so easy, it's cheap, and they give you free stuff. Like realtors that don't use this make my soul hurt. Anyway, ask me about that after if you're interested in time. Facebook 10% of the time. If your market is female, between the ages of 35 and 75, Facebook should be your #1 social media platform. It's where you should spend most of your social media time because that's where they are. Just is what it is.
Girls love you.
Other platforms specific to your business, 10% of the time. And Twitter, because everyone always asks me about this, nah, unless you love Twitter. The reason is to be successful with Twitter, really not just contributing to the noise, but actually successful, it requires a very high level of engagement, and most of us don't have that time. And Twitter is, guys, where hope goes to die right now. So unless you're in media or sports or politics, save yourself the pain. All right. So sustainability first. I want you to take bite-sized actions. That's what rock stars do. They learn to play the instrument one key at a time before they get in the arena and try to play to 10,000 people, right? Bite-sized action. Realistic marketing. Do a little bit, learn, and then do a little bit more. I don't want you to try to market to 1 million different groups at once. Most businesses have 5 personas, 5 different types of customers, but you can't build them all out at once, one at a time. And when I was building out strategies for big brands that were first getting into this concept, we would do one every 18 to 24 months. I want you to think of focusing on one type of buyer for 2 years. And these were big brands, right? I've been focusing on one type of buyer for 8 years because it's all the business I ever need. One at a time. Once you build that audience out, then you can go to another one. Unless you have a full-time marketing person, and then that's a different story. And figuring out what your holy trinity is. Now, I just want to make you one last thing, because I'm going to give you guys this announcement early, because I told Nicola I was going to. If you want to know more about this, you can go to localrockstar.co/Brooksville and get more information about the Local Rockstar program and what you've learned today, including downloading the slides. I'll send you the slides. But I partner, all of my design and development work and creative work is done by Kelp Agency. They're based in Brooksville. And I went to Kelp with a problem earlier this year, and I said, I need a way to get my baby businesses, my 1, 2, 3 person baby businesses, a website and a strategy and a system for $300 a month. And they looked at me like I was insane. And then we worked on it, and 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 we worked on it. So in September, Kelp and I are rolling out a program that will give a small company a year of strategy work with me. It's a system, it's training every month, Q&A calls, year of strategy work with me, a website, and a year of hosting and support for $300 a month. It took us a long time to figure that out. But now that we have, I get to make the announcement today that I will no longer be working with clients in digital marketing outside of Local Rockstar. So I'm no longer, I've been 10 years taking on digital marketing retainers. And I'm not going to do it anymore outside of this program because I want specifically to work with this type of business. These are my heart and my soul, my infinitely renewable joy. And that's what I want you to figure out, because that is the key to success in social media. It is the key to success in SEO, because it's why you will do the hard work if you love the people that you serve. And I'm not going to tell you today that that's easy. Because I know there are at least a few people sitting here that are like, I don't really like that thing that I do. Don't tell on yourselves. I'm going to tell you that you have a bigger problem than social media can solve if that's you. Because if you love your audience, social media is the easy part. Local SEO is the easy part. Because you will want to talk to them. You will want to engage with them. And that's where you win. Smaller stage, bigger impact. Thanks, guys.
I want to thank Reina for coming, share her knowledge. For her to take the time from her busy schedule, it means a lot to us. So, if you didn't take notes, sorry to be you, but at least go to the website and get the slides. And where else can they find you if they want to engage and ask some questions later?
Yeah, so you can always find me at Reina Carcillo on Facebook. That's spelled R-E-N-I-A. I know it's weird. My family's from Kentucky, man. So you can find me at Reina Carcillo on Facebook. That's the best way to reach out to me. You can also find all kinds of free resources, downloadables, training. There's a checklist for Facebook and a whole class on Google My Business, all for free at localrockstar.co.
So let's give Reina an applause again.